Hi, everyone. So as Scott said, I'm Ray Grant. I am one of the retail support leads with Wizards of the Coast. And my area is actually Indiana, so a lot of you guys I get to talk to on a daily basis. And I'm going to go through what changes we decided to make to WER this year, some of the reasons behind why, what we decided to change and how, and what we're planning on doing in the very near future. So when we were looking at WER, we found that there was a lot of feedback and a lot of complaints, some trouble points and pain points with the program. So what we did was we actually created a very small team. We called it the WER Tiger Team that was responsible for deciding what changes we wanted to make in the program and the time frame in which we were going to make those. That team was comprised of 4 of us, myself, whose job was to represent the retailers and their feedback when we were talking about what changes we wanted to make. Chris Tulloch, who was going to represent the organized play teams within Wizards of the Coast and the organizers and retailers that worked at conventions and some of the larger events. Michael Dunlap, who represented the global play teams, so our partners in Europe, Latin America, China, APAC, and those places. And then Chase Robinson. He was the guy from technology. He got to tell us, yes, you can do this. No, you cannot. Yes, we might be able to do this, but it will take you all year and their entire project budget. So he was kind of our gatekeeper as to what was and was not possible within the WER. So getting started, first thing we had to do was we had to define what the purpose of our team was. And to do that, we had to define what we wanted the WER to function, what its main functions were. And we wanted to make the WER focus on those 4 main functions. And we came up with, it needed to schedule events. It needed to run events. It needed to be able to report those events. And it needed to be able to order WPN materials. Anything else the WER did, we decided was going to kind of be gravy. But if it didn't do these 4 things, it wouldn't function for you guys as retailers, and it wouldn't function for us at Wizards of the Coast. So all of the changes that we made to our program, we wanted to make sure looked at and focused on these 4 things. But we also wanted to make sure that when we did that, the interface that we created was very clear and intuitive. And we wanted to improve the overall user experience of the WER. From the very beginning new store who's never run a tournament before, all the way up to the Advanced Plus store who runs 5, 6 tournaments a week, we wanted to make the user experience better for all of our retailers. So how do we go about doing that? The first thing we needed to do was really nail down and figure out what was causing pain with the current program. So we needed to gather some intelligence. We did this in a number of ways. The first, and probably the one that had the most impact on the changes we made, was going straight to you guys. We talked to retailers, both in person at conventions, distributor conferences, and with the feedback that you guys provided to my team and game support team. A number of you guys have provided me feedback with WER. I mean, raise your hand if you guys have ever written in or talked to your retail rep and said, hey, this is what I think about WER. Show of hands, anybody? It's a good number of you. And we took all of that feedback and made sure that that was the primary focus when we were looking at the changes to make. We also talked a lot to my team. We had a slightly different experience when our job is to teach new stores how to use the WER. It shows a very interesting experience when you look at every single person has questions and confusions on, say, how to order WPN materials. So we looked at what we needed to do with our first-time walkthroughs. We looked at what questions retailers asked us a lot. And then we looked at what errors were commonly happening with event reporting. Very common one, for instance, was opening the Friday Night Magic for next week instead of this week. And then the other thing we looked at was we did an analysis of our signups. So we looked at what event materials were frequently missed, what events were missed, and we really wanted to look at why those things were missed. Because if anybody who's missed from the vault can attest, they didn't miss it because they didn't want to carry it. So after that, we had to go off to battle against the Hydra that was WER. It was a lot of fun, a lot of fighting, but what we did was we took a look at each of the sections of the WER and evaluated them on, did they fulfill one of the 4 main purposes I talked about? The ease of training. This is both from my team's perspective, how easy can we train a new retailer, and for you guys, if you're getting a new tournament organizer, joining up with your store, how easy is it for you to train them how to use this program? Was the interface intuitive? If nobody taught you how to do this, is it something that you'd be able to easily figure out on your own? And then, of course, the feedback that we received from you guys about each of the respective sections. So everybody probably recognizes this. This is the WER landing page, as it used to be around the start of the year. Shows all of the events that I have scheduled on my WER, gives me a nice which sets of my events were delinquent. But this page actually ended up causing quite a bit of confusion and problems. So let's take a look at those really quick. What we found with this page was that it was very, very easy to select the wrong event. My team had to correct an enormous amount of Friday Night Magics, normal tournaments, that were returned just because it was open for the previous week or the following week. And this wasn't anything really on the retailers, it was a user interface issue. There was no way on this screen to tell what was open for scheduling or how many days left you had to schedule it. From a user interface perspective, you had to go to a completely separate tool, in this case our WPN website, to be able to tell what was open, or you had to go in, already know, and start scheduling the events. And even within that interface, there was no way for you to tell how long you had left. This actually led to a lot of stuff getting missed. You also had to go to a separate window to order materials. So things like from the vault, buy a box, they were not easily readily available for you. You had to make sure that every week you went and clicked on that WPN materials box. And if you didn't, you could miss some very key things like from the vault, Commander's Arsenal, or buy a box. And there was no really easy way to see when your events were actually scheduled. Yes, it had dates up there, but if you're anything like me, I mean, who knows what day August 17th is? Is that a Monday? Is that a Friday? It's not something that was very easy for you guys. So we changed up the landing page. And this is, as of our February build, what it looks like now. So we made it much, much cleaner and made the landing page dedicated solely to scheduling events. The branded programs, those are things like Friday Night Magic, Dungeons & Dragons encounters, game day, buy a box promos. Those all now show up on the left-hand side for you. And we have a countdown that lets you know how long you have left until the window closes. And it's a one-stop shop. Both the event materials and your events show up there. These, as the window starts to schedule down, the events move up. So the less time you have, the farther up it is to the top. So the easier it is to see. So now I'd like to talk, since the new landing page is dedicated to scheduling events, what scheduling events looked like. This is our most recent change, and this is the one that I'm quite happy with. Have any of you guys tried this out yet and been able to do the new scheduling UI? Not a lot of hands. Awesome. I'm going to get to blow a lot of your guys' minds. So this is what it did look like. Everybody's familiar with this. You had to put in a lot of information. And again, this we saw had some issues. So it contained a lot of irrelevant fields. The name field is a fantastic example of this. You guys could name your event whatever you wanted to name it, but as soon as you logged back in, what did it do? Yep, it erased the name and just set it up with whatever we had in our system. It left all options open for all event types. So this was actually an issue when it came to things that were competitive events. Friday Night Magic, Grand Prix trials, those sorts of things. You could actually select options when scheduling your event that would immediately invalidate your event. So if you select, say, player list only for a competitive event, you can't report it because there's no rounds getting put into the system. And these type of trapped options is something that we wanted to completely eliminate. There's also no way to tell what day of the week you were scheduling your events for. Again, I don't know what August 17th is. It might be a Friday, might not. So if I'm running a Commander League every Tuesday, I want an easy way to tell what Tuesdays are. And it was just too busy and time consuming to fill out. I mean, how long did it take you guys to schedule your Friday Night Magics every month? From the laughs? It's a long time. I ran a store myself for about 5 years, and that was a major pain point for me. Every month I had to go in, and it took me 20, 30 minutes to schedule my events for the month. And you had to completely fill it out for every event, even if the information that you were going to put in was the exact same. So you'd ended up doing the same thing 4, 6, 8 times. So the new changes, it's now a 4-step process. You click on the event that you'd like to schedule. In this case, for my example, I clicked on a Friday Night Magic, and it brings you to this new screen. So what we did was we removed all of the irrelevant fields, The system already knows I'm scheduling a Friday Night Magic. So as you can see up top, it says I am now scheduling a Friday Night Magic for September. And all you have to select is the things that change for that event. Put in your organization. You choose what format you want it to be. Now this is important because if you want the same format for multiple times, you're going to want to make sure that it's the format. Your pairing method and event information. Then it takes you to my favorite part. You get to select the dates. I did say dates. So it takes you to the calendar view where you now get to choose what dates you want the event to be on. For non-branded events, you can actually schedule up to 13 events at one time now. So gone are the days of having to schedule the same F&M 4 times. Basically, you just get to here, the grayed out sections that you can see. Those are days that are not eligible to be scheduled for the event. White are dates that you can schedule, and then the blue are the ones that I've already selected to schedule this event for. We did take a look at seeing if there was a way to break up the formats so that you guys could choose, say, for the advanced level stores, I'd like to run standard this day and a modern this day and then a standard and then a draft. We did look into that, and it ended up being actually more clicks and more time consuming to fill that out than it did the old system. So we decided that wasn't an improvement in time for you guys and didn't do it. It's actually faster to just do this process twice than any of the ways that our program could actually accommodate such an interface.
Going back to that, can I schedule multiple F&Ms on the same through this page?
You can, yes. So on this one, I already have the 5th and the 19th selected for my standard F&M here. And when I go ahead and click next, yep, it has to spin again. When I go ahead and click next, it's going to bring me to the confirmation page. And when I click schedule, it's going to schedule the event for both of those days.
No, what I'm getting at is like going back to the 5th, can I schedule like 2 different F&Ms on the 5th on that page?
Unfortunately, not on that page. That was going back a little bit to what I spoke about. We looked at a couple of ways of making that happen, but the different ways that our system was able to accommodate that actually ended up making the process more complicated, which in the end we decided wasn't really an improvement over the old system. So if you're running multiple Friday Night Magics on the same day, you do have to go through and do this process twice. So this is going to be your confirmation screen. It's going to show everything on here that you are scheduling for, and as soon as you click schedule, it brings you up to the completing the wizard. Now here, whether you click that X button or you click finish, it communicates to us that you want to run these events, schedules them in our system all at once, takes about 10 to 20 seconds, and you're all done. Now that we've scheduled events, let's talk about how you see them. We decided to change this up as well. So there's now 2 ways of viewing your scheduled events. The one that's being shown is the calendar view. So the calendar view limits accidentally opening up the wrong event. It's really hard to open the Friday Night Magic for next Friday when you can see exactly what date and day on the calendar that you're currently on. It's also very easy to see when events are scheduled or if something was missed. When I ran a store, in August I would always have a Commander League every Tuesday. I don't have it on here, I forgot to schedule it. So that gives me a good reminder to go in and make sure that I get that scheduled. There's also a second view. If you guys see the list view, right there next to the calendar view, that's going to bring you to something that looks a lot like the old WER landing page. The new list view, it gives you a very good snapshot of your event information, just like you had before. It gives you an easy way to find and cancel delinquent events. If you guys try to do this on the calendar view, you have to go back through every month, look for days that have any red highlighted events, go into that specific event to edit it to cancel it. And that is, again, it's a little long, a little tedious. This gives you a much faster and easier way of doing that. So now, very briefly, I'm going to talk about what's coming up in the future. And that is actually pretty small. As of August 5th, the last major changes that we had planned were actually complete. That was the multi-scheduling that I just showed you guys. From here on, the remainder of the year is going to involve mainly tweaks and bug fixes for what we've currently and already put out. Which actually brings me to the next part, and one of my main reasons for being here. I want to get some feedback and questions about the WER from you guys. Things you like about the new changes, things you don't like about the new changes, things you'd like to see us be able to add in if possible, whether or not it is for this specific version of WER or whatever we do in the future. So for now, I'd like to go ahead and open that up, and I already have a question middle way in the back.
Is there a way in the future, perhaps, that if
So the question is there a way in the future to have it set up for your, say, local players database to be tied to your DCI number so that you can bring it to multiple computers? With the current version of WER, that's not currently possible. We don't have a way to set this up for any sort of cloud-based processing, which is what that would require. That is an absolutely fantastic suggestion for the next version of WER. And I know that's something that we would like to be able to do, as well as be able to transfer tournaments between computers as well while they're in progress. Yep, you.
A little bit of that, because we just had a situation where the computer that we run our stuff on, just before we left for GenCon, it crashed. Placed on our hard drive and everything like that. And that's a situation, of course, but a situation where if that was attached to your DCI number, that would be a nice, easy way of having, not have to deal with that sort of thing. And then just to add something you said earlier as well, he was asking if you could do the calendar view, click on multiple things. I think it would be really nice, given the fact that a lot of stores are advanced or advanced plus and are allowed to run multiple events the same day. You may want to run one of the games days on a Saturday or pre-releases multiple times. If you could make the way that you could just click on Friday, it goes like 1, 2, 3 scheduled or something like that. That seems like a technical change that could be possible, and I think would also I think the rest of the changes are awesome though.
Good to hear. Yeah, there's more feedback. Would like to see the multiple scheduling for the single Friday Night Magics, or being able to, say, schedule both game days on Saturday with using the same calendar view. And it's definitely something that we can go back and look at and see if we can get it to work in our current software. If not, again, it's definitely a fantastic piece of feedback for whatever we end up doing in the future with WER. Black Hat.
I am in the process of actually starting a store here in Indiana, and our current plans are to run our entire store with Macs. All the windows that I saw looked like Windows, and I was wondering if there was going to be a Mac version of your software, a Mac compatible.
Very good question. The question was, although the windows that he saw, it looked like Windows, which you are correct. They are all Windows. And if there was going to be a version of WER for the Mac. With, again, this current version of WER, it is Windows only. And that is not something that we can currently change with this iteration. However, whatever we end up doing for the future of WER, one of the really, really big concerns we have is being able to let it run on all platforms, including Macintosh. So we want to be able to make sure whatever we do in the future for it, the next version of WER, is compatible with both PC and Macs. In the back, plaid shirt.
Small suggestion, the calendar view, having dividing lines in each day, presenting as a group is much easier to identify the days. I was very confused the first time that I saw that. I thought I wasn't sure if it was Thursday or Friday or the Wednesday, and I had to line up everything. But just dividing lines is a very simple calendar.
Very good piece of feedback. It was add some lines dividing the days on the calendar view when you're scheduling events, so there's no confusion about which day you're clicking on. Black hat in the middle.
I would like to see user accounts or permissions so that I give multiple staff the ability, when we lose internet connection, to log back in easily.
OK, so you wanted to see the ability to give multiple users permissions on your WER. I'd like to clarify that a little bit to kind of drill down exactly what you're meaning. There's already the ability to set up TOs on your store for them to be able to log into the WER. Or are you talking about being able to?
I didn't know about that.
Oh, awesome. Well,
Where will I do that?
so if you want to add TOs to your store, you can do so from the WPN website. You're going to go to Manage Your Store and then add a TO. You'll basically email the TO an application form. They fill it out. That comes to my team. We give you a call. We say, hey, is XYZ an authorized TO? What roles do you want to give them? And we just set them up. It's a quick process. Far back.
Related to that, would that be the same for D&D if I want to have DMs?
The question is that the same for D&D? And the answer is yes. As far as a tournament organizer goes on this store, there's no difference between a Magic organizer, a D&D organizer, and a Kaijudo organizer in our systems. That is up to each individual store to limit what they want those people to do. So if I get added on as a TO on one of your guys' stores, that gives me the ability to schedule anything and everything. We have a follow-up question on the same one.
Also, I
Very good question. It was, in the past, you had to tie, when you did D&D, you had to tie players to a DM, and you had to break out individual tables. That is actually no longer the case. Starting with the next season of Encounters, all you have to do is say, these are my DMs, these are my players, and then you can report that event. You don't have to break it out into specific tables. I'm seeing thumbs up. That is awesome. All right, I have time for about 2 more. Green shirt in the middle. I know you've been holding your hand up for a while.
Just for some feedback, the owner of my store is a complete Luddite, and frequently she will scream her lungs out at technology, and the update works, I mean, great for her. So someone who is, we had a woman who was technologically phobic practically, yet since she was the owner, she did most of the scheduling, and now she can do this one intuitively. So yeah, it's not perfect, but the changes are working very well, and there's less times I have to call them from my duties to say, no, you did this wrong. So thank you. It is working very well.
Excellent. I really appreciate that. The feedback was for people who are technologically maybe less skilled. I think Luddite was the exact word used.
I say that to her face, so it's okay.
Fair enough. It's a lot easier to use the program, and they can actually do this sort of stuff without issue. I have time for 1 or 2 more. I know blue shirt right there was, you've had your hand up for a little bit.
I noticed with the most recent update, the one that came through on the 5th,
Mm-hmm.
when I go to edit an event, I no longer have the ability to change the name of the event, which impacts when I have the screens minimized, because I run 2 FNMs simultaneously. If they both happen to be standard events, then I can't differentiate between the 2 by looking at their tabs.
Got it. OK, that's a good piece of feedback. I haven't actually heard of stores using it that way before. The feedback was that there's no way to edit the name any longer. So even though it changes in our system, you could edit it before you run the event. So if you have 2 windows up for both of your FNMs, there's no way to tell if they're both standard which one you're running.
If I could suggest, give us a nickname field and have that show what shows up on the tab or in the window.
Interesting. So adding a nickname field to the tabs, I saw another thumbs up for that one back there. So it's something that's seconded, thirded, fourth, fifth. Yep, lots of nods, lots of thumbs up. Awesome. That is something I'll bring back to the team so that we can look at. We're doing, hey, don't give me thumbs down. Oh, wait. Really, you can give me thumbs down if you don't like the idea. I have time for 1 more. And the guy who's just going up higher, I know you've been holding your hand up for most of my presentations, so go ahead.
One quick question for you. On the database and for the software, I noticed we have multiple players who said that they have combined their DCI numbers and had multiple issues with that over the years. However, all of their DCI numbers still show up in our system of those
So the question is, when players combine DCI numbers, the DCI numbers, all of their DCI numbers still show up in your local player database and in your guys' systems. That is true. What you're going to want to do is find out what number they have that's going to be their primary, and then you want to remove the other ones from your local player database. The long and short of it, the reason that happens is because all of the DCI numbers that are entered into your events are not stored anywhere on our systems as far as your local player database goes. That is all locally on your machine. So I don't actually, once a player is combined, I don't have a way of going onto your guys' WER and changing that.
If somebody were to, so if you say to somebody then just combine their numbers with the wrong number, well then on your end, if the points go to the same person.
Correct. So if I have DCI numbers A, B, and C combined into my number A, and you guys are still using my number C, the system is smart enough to realize, hey, that's still Ray, send that result to his file. So it's not going to be a necessary killer if you don't get the exact right number, but it's always good to have accurate information. So with that, I am out of time. If you guys do have any other suggestions or feedback you'd like to give me, you can come up and talk to me during lunch, or I'll be in the retailer lounge for most of the convention. Thank you guys very much, and then go enjoy your lunch.